Greetings, gamers! Welcome to the Chroma 6 Sublime explanation. You may be familiar with my 5 Sublime clear of this fight that I performed long ago at this point. It's been well over a year for sure. And you may be wondering, why has it taken so long to get the 6th one? And the answer is kind of funny. It doesn't actually have anything to do with difficulty in execution. The challenge comes from 2 different math problems that this fight presents. Same as with Molten Viral, I have linked an uncommented video in the description. Unfortunately, the recording of this that I have does not have game audio, so we won't be hearing the sound effects, which is a little annoying because the sound effects actually matter for gameplay. You'll see what I mean soon enough. There are quite a few things to talk about, and I think the best way to explain them is to just do so as we go along, as we proceed through the fight. So we start off, and the first thing you'll notice is that I'm not shooting. I'm just holding a charge. Why? Well, let's quickly go over the build, and then maybe it'll become obvious. The build for this is Plant Glyph, which is why we need to wait for 50 seconds. Boundless for overall utility to make it easier to kite her around, and also a secret third thing. Then we have Anxiety and Big Sister, which are going to play a huge part in this. We have 2 copies of Pebble, 2 copies of Scissors, and Fear Sense to round out the build. Fear Sense isn't like required or anything, but I like using it nowadays. Why exactly those are the choices will become clear soon enough. Throughout phase 1, you'll see I waited for Plant Glyph to activate, and then I fired some bullets, and now I stopped firing. And that is because once her barrier breaks, once she gets to 90% of her fear, we want to damage all of her spikes evenly. And the only way to do this is with an aura. You will notice I get hit here. This is just to activate Anxiety to kind of speed up the process. If you do everything correctly to speed up the fight, it'll still be around 15 minutes. But if you don't, then it'll be closer to 22. So that's why I'm kind of taking damage here, just to activate Anxiety. You may wonder, like, in phase 1, while the barrier was up, why was I able to just shoot there? That's because while she has a barrier up, her spikes are actually immune. They don't take any damage, so even just using an aura, the only thing that'll be damaged is the barrier itself. And so we're completely free to use shots there. So this takes a while, right? Even while using Anxiety, it takes a long time to get through this phase and into the chase phase, which is kind of the critical part of this fight. In the 5 Sublime clear, I had to break 15 barriers between the 2 chase phases. And in this one, in order to get 6, we need to break an extra 4. So 10 barriers in one chase phase and then 9 barriers in the other. So let's fast forward a little. And now we're in the chase phase, and she's gonna be putting up a barrier. Again, while she has a barrier up, the spikes are immune, so we are free to shoot a charge shot and then, move to the top, move Chroma against the wall, and have her regen the barrier. The way that the barrier regeneration works actually is that she will regenerate it whenever she is on the edge of the screen for 2 consecutive seconds. She does this regardless of whether or not she currently has a barrier up. So for the purpose of scoring, we want to break the barrier and then have her put up a new one, obviously. However, if you're not careful and you just push her into the wall without breaking the barrier, she'll still regen it to its full health, but you won't get the score for breaking the previous one. So this is pretty finicky. And actually, you could see right there, that 2-second count starts around here, and then when the barrier breaks, the 2 seconds aren't reset. So, between the break here and the barrier regenning, obviously that was a lot less than 2 seconds. So that's really the most efficient way to do this without damaging her body And we need to avoid damaging her body because, like I said, we're trying to break 10 barriers, and each barrier represents 2% of her total fear. Now, the chase phase, the entire phase, is 20% of her fear. So any amount of damage we deal to the body is going to make it harder to break the 10th barrier. However, we can solve this by damaging the last barrier, because this is going to be the 10th barrier that we're damaging right now, and then using a charge shot and critically getting hit to activate anxiety again. So between anxiety and 2 copies of Pebble, this charge shot deals a lot of damage, and it is enough to break that extra barrier. You can see we get the 281 score. And that's basically the hardest part of the fight done. And you can see we really over damage the phase shift. So now we're basically back to the start of the fight. She puts up a new barrier. This is kind of a special barrier that represents 10% of her fear, and in fact it's only going to break once the fear gets to about here, where my mouse is pointing. You know, this is just simple stuff. Again, you will see me intentionally get hit to activate anxiety, to speed up the process a bit, and there isn't really anything to talk about here. You'll see we break the barrier, and then again we are using only plant glyph with a little boost from anxiety to get through this phase. This takes a while, so let's skip ahead to the end of this phase and the start of the second chase phase. Since we already got 10 barriers in the first chase, we only need 9 now, which obviously gives us a lot more leeway and is going to make this more simple, more easy in execution. Though a couple things actually go wrong here. You'll see in just a moment what I mean. Again, I use the ticks and I use the charge shot, which, in case you're wondering, 1 full charge shot plus 1 regular bullet, which is automatically fired whenever you release a charge, plus 14 ticks of the aura are enough to break a barrier. If you're just using the aura to break an entire barrier, it takes 47 ticks. And you have to count those in order to move her closer to an edge right when the barrier breaks, right? This is why having sound effects is kind of nice. You can see like the visual cue of the barrier kind of reacting whenever it takes damage. But there's also a sound effect that you can use. 1 barrier tick, of course, happens every half second. And now it's just business as usual. Here I get hit, which is obviously awkward. Now anxiety is active, and a full charge shot is going to overkill the barrier, so I have to rely on just the aura. And in fact, I don't even know how many ticks the break is going to take here. That's why the barrier ends up breaking like really close to the middle of the screen, which is usually really bad. But again, because we only need 9 barriers in this phase, we get away with it. And then this is going to be the last barrier. This is the 9th barrier. So after this one breaks, I don't want to push Chroma into a wall again. If she regens another barrier now, I won't be able to break it anyway, so I'd rather get a bit more damage against the spikes. So I just kind of stay to the right side, keep her in the center like this. Now we're back into the easiest phase. I can shoot some shots again, take down the barrier, and then after this it's going to be, again, a phase that we've seen before. But this is where kind of the second math problem comes in, because you will see, thanks to Fear Sense, that the spikes aren't anywhere close to being broken. In fact, if we just kept using the aura until the end of the fight, the spikes would just stay intact. So how are we going to get the score? The only way to get 6 sublimes from here is to break all the spikes. We can't shoot them, obviously, and the aura doesn't do enough, so what do we do? And the solution, of course, is going to be a concept that we have explored to some degree. Say it with me now. It's panic warping. We also did a panic warp against Molten. However, that one was different because the thing with Molten is that the turrets that she summons get instantly popped by a panic. That obviously doesn't happen with these spikes. We need to deal damage to them. So how are we going to do it? Well, we get hit to activate anxiety, use a panic, and all the spikes get destroyed. Usually that shouldn't happen. Under normal circumstances, whenever you have a panic active, its damage is spread evenly across everything it hits, which in this case would make it not enough to break all the spikes. However, there is a bug in the game that we can exploit to get this to work, and that is that 1 in every 5 frames, if we warp with an active panic, anything within the radius of that panic is going to take the full damage of the tick, rather than that damage being spread evenly. Make no mistake, this is a glitch, and without the glitch, this would not work. So this is why we have 2 copies of Scissors, which, together with Anxiety, make the panic deal just enough damage so that if we hit this 1 in 5, we can break all the spikes and get like 5 Sublime Medals at once. And yeah, that's the fight. It's pretty cursed, but in terms of actual time spent attempting this, it's a lot lower than some of the other fights I've shown. So yeah, that's basically the explanation. If you're still watching, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I hope I didn't forget anything. And yeah, shout out to Oddish for being the first to really show off Chroma scoring strats long ago, like several years ago. And with that, there isn't really anything else that I want to talk about. Go watch my streams, twitch.tv/q_cubed. I mostly play Endless these days, though I might start a new file soon and, you know, embark on a new journey for 100% all stamps again. You know, I've done it twice before. Why not do it a third time? That's it. Have a good day.